I want to start off by saying that I'm very new to Reddit, and this is my first post here, so please excuse me if there are any formatting errors. And I'm also not a very good storyteller, so I might not get my point across how I would like to, but regardless, I'll try my best. Now, this story isn't very long. It all happened in 10 minutes, but those 10 minutes made me fear for my life. So, I was on a cruise with my mum and two sisters, and it went through some countries in Europe, and one country in Africa, which is where this story takes place. It was your typical morning. Nothing strange had occurred to me yet, and the cruise was very enjoyable. It was the second to last stop before we went back to Italy, which is where the voyage started. We docked in this county named Tunisia, and we went to this little town that was very beautiful, and there were so many cute little shops in which the vendors were very eager to sell us some stuff. My mum, being a people pleaser, ended up buying a couple of things that weren't really necessary, but were a nice little reminder of our trip. Now, I'm a very shy and socially awkward teen, while my mum is fun and outgoing, so I never really talked to the vendors, let alone spend time away from my mum. After a while, my mum was taking too long in one store, and I really wanted to see what else there was since our time there was almost over. While I'm alone walking, a man comes up to me and says to me something along the lines of, "A beautiful girl like me shouldn't be walking alone, and I should see some necklaces he's selling," all while looking me up and down. Me, being socially awkward, I constantly decline and tell him I should leave soon. But he won't budge. He keeps insisting while pulling me into his store. Now, I may have jumped to conclusions a bit, but he was pulling on me really hard that I couldn't escape. And while in the store, you'd expect him to stop in front of the merchandise, but he kept going, and we were getting closer and closer to the back of the store. There was no one inside the store at that time, so that's when I started screaming for my mum. I wanted to scream earlier, but I hate creating fusses and drawing attention to myself. But at this point, I was really freaked out and wanted to get the fuck out of there. Luckily, my mum heard my screams and came and pulled me away, putting me inside the bus we came in. This event had me really shaken up, that I wasn't speaking at all the whole bus ride. My mum and I had never really talked about this, and I don't really feel like bringing it up. While on the bus, I was thinking about it, and I felt like I had overreacted, but this was the first time anything like that had happened to me. I'd gotten creepy catcalls before, from all types of men, but this is the first time that someone was physically dragging me to what seemed the back of the room of the store. While I was thinking about it on the bus, I looked out of the window, and I see the guy glaring back at me with the most evil look on his face. This kept going until the bus left and he was out of sight. So, that leaves me to wonder if I really was overreacting, or something bad could have really happened had my mum not found me. That experience still shakes me up to this day, and I'm a lot more careful of my surroundings now. So, creepy market guy, let's not meet ever again. I live in a somewhat populated city, in a fairly middle class, but not over the top neighbourhood. You know, the kind where middle-aged housewives take their girlfriends and purebred house dogs out for runs, or bike rides, or whatever it is you do after binge drinking wine all morning. Well, anyway, I was out on the sidewalk near my house tonight. It's somewhat cut off from the road, with a few sparse ponds and whatnot. I had my phone flashlight on, per usual, so I'm more visible to drivers, and more people that are out and about. At some point, I'd zoned out and began to slightly notice a shadow creeping up on me, male-sized, much taller and more built than me. No big deal, I thought. If I'm out at this time of night, there's no reason other people should be allowed to either. It wasn't until I heard a booming male voice yelling something at me that I was in any way startled. After my headphones were out, I noticed the man's full demeanour in the dim streetlight above our encounter. Standing at well over 6 feet tall and 250 pounds, very sloppy haircut and beard. He could have passed for homeless, if it wasn't for one defining feature. He was dressed in a full wedding-style tuxedo. Keep in mind, this is a southern state, and it's well over 90 degrees some nights here. He spoke again this time, louder, assuming I hadn't heard what he had said through my headphones. But I had definitely heard it loud and clear, and hearing it a second time only made it more unsettling. "Do you know where the nearest daycare is?" Frozen in fear, because it is definitely not common for strangers to stop other strangers in this town. I stuttered a bit and pointed in the direction ahead of us, explaining that I thought there might be one beside the Kroger. He simply smiled, waved, and replied, "Thank you, sir." As soon as his back was turned, I booked it in the opposite direction, taking the back road to my house. Something was just off about the whole situation, from how he was dressed, to his demeanour, and very unsettling smile and tone. This man was definitely not drunk, or under the influence of any drugs, by the way. His eerily calm voice and body language probably put me off the whole situation. I could possibly be overreacting, but my gut instinct was definitely screaming, "Get the fuck out of there," the whole time. This happened to me when I was just 13 years old, which makes it a whole lot scary in my opinion. So, I was home alone one night, because both my parents worked nights, and I was usually okay by myself. Anyway, I was just sat there watching the telly, and messaging my friend. Then, I heard this loud bang from upstairs. It startled me, but I was a bit scared to go check it out straight away, so I just stayed there listening. I was messaging my friend about it, and she said it was kind of strange. I went to the bottom of the stairs to see if I could hear anything else, but I couldn't. So I just went back into the living room and carried on watching the telly. After about 10 minutes, I heard what I think's footsteps coming from upstairs. This freaked me out, seeing as how I had no pets, and I was the only one in the house. Or at least that's what I thought. I again go to the bottom of the stairs while still messaging my friend. She tells me to call the police, but I didn't really see the need to just yet, seeing as how it could have just been my imagination, seeing as how I'm a very paranoid person. So I'm stood at the bottom of the stairs, just listening for what seems like hours, but was about 10 minutes, and every now and then, I thought I heard a little sound coming from upstairs, but just kept putting it that it was my imagination. I ended up calling my friend, just in case someone was in the house. I had someone who I was talking to, so it made me feel a little bit safer. I decided to go upstairs, but not into any of the rooms because I was scared if anyone was there waiting for me. I see that one of the bedroom doors is open, even though I was certain that it was closed when I left it. This freaked me out. I was talking silently down the phone to my friend, just in case there were someone in the house and they were to hear me. So I went back downstairs into the living room, and just sat on the corner of the sofa. My friend was telling me that she was going to call the police, because everything just doesn't add up. There has to be someone in the house. So I hang up the phone, and she calls the police for me. Now I'm just sat there, in the corner, scared for my life. That's when I heard some more footsteps coming from upstairs. But this time, they start walking down the stairs. I put a blanket up to my face, so that I can't see what's going to happen. The footsteps finally stopped, and I wait a while, and finally pull the blanket away from my face. That's when I saw him. He was stood at the bottom of the stairs, just staring at me. I felt like crying. I screamed as loud as I could, and started running towards the kitchen and the back door. He started chasing after me. Luckily, the back door was still unlocked, so I ran out the back door, ran through the side of the house, and went to the neighbour's house banging on the door. I don't know where the guy went, because as I ran that way, he didn't follow me. I think he might have just jumped over the back fence, because he knew he couldn't get to me. The police finally arrived, and they asked me some questions about the guy and what I'd heard. They checked around the bedrooms, and it turns out that he was hiding in one of the closets with a knife, waiting for me to go to bed. I don't know why, but why didn't he come and try and kill me when I had the blanket covering my face, when he knew he could have? I don't know if the guy was ever caught, because I never heard anything of it. But still, I hope he did. This is definitely the most terrifying experience I have ever encountered, and I just hope that no one ever has to go through the same thing as I did with this guy. Creepy guy who was hiding in my closet and tried to kill me. Let's not meet. This happened to me just last week. So I was walking home from work, and I was just taking the normal route, you know, walking through the park and stuff. And I happened to hear some rustling from behind me. So I turn around, and I see a guy walking from the field. I don't think much of it, because people can walk around if they want to, and it could just be a random person just walking home as well. So I carry on walking, just minding my own business. That's when I hear his footsteps, getting closer and louder. I start to panic a little bit, and turn around, to see that he is now like 10 feet away from me. I'm still really paranoid, but try to act calm, and start making myself walk faster. But, of course, he starts walking faster as well. I'm starting to get really scared at this point. Is he trying to chase me? Or is he genuinely just walking like that? I'm not too sure. So, as this is all going on, I'm messaging my friend, telling her what's happening. She says something could be going on, but she's also like, maybe he's just walking like that. Maybe he's genuinely wanting to get home fast. That's when I see him. in the corner of my eye, walking at the side of me. I stop and freeze, just looking at him. He stops as well, and we make eye contact with each other. What does this guy want? Is he just trying to scare me? Does he want to talk to me? That's when he lifts his arm up and puts it on my shoulder. Okay, what the fuck? This is really creeping me out right now. I ask him what he wants, and he just stays silent with his arm on my shoulder. I tell him I have to go and start walking fast, but he starts walking as well. Okay, I'm getting really creeped out at this moment. I see a bunch of guys sat on a bench and start to run towards them. He runs with me, but then notices the guys and thinks I might be friends with them. So he takes a different route and just stands there behind a tree waiting for me. I tell the guys what's happening, and they agree to walk me home, just to make sure I'm okay. I see the guy still stood there behind the tree as we exit the park, but he doesn't follow us. At least I don't think he did. We get back to my house, and I thank the guys for walking me back. They say it's okay, and just tell me to be more careful, and that if they see him again, they'll do something about it. I was grateful that there was a group of guys there this day, and that they were kind enough to help me back. But to the creepy guy that was silent and touched me on the shoulder, let's not meet. This story happened to me last year in New Mexico. I'm a horrible writer, but bear with me. Alright, so for some background, I had recently moved from New England to this dusty old Wild West state. I didn't have a job lined up. I didn't have a car or anything, so I basically took the first job I was offered. This job ended up being a sign holding job. I know, so glamorous. But it was literally a 5-minute walk from my house. The job was weird from the get-go. The town is a weird dying town. It was the summer, and my boss was a very attitude-filled chain smoker, who basically cracked the door open, stood by it, and then smoked. Anyway, I usually had random people scream things at me. I had people come up to me and flirt. I've also had somebody try to shove food in my mouth. True story, and I was horrified. Oh, and I was asked out by a random person, who I never saw again. Oh, and the neighbourhood drunk always stopped to talk to me. So I was pretty used to weirdness. I just took it and moved on. I didn't dwell on it too much. That all changed when one day, this Dodge Charger pulled up right behind me. I was an idiot that day. I wasn't being observant as I usually was, and as I was taught. I was tired of standing on my feet. It was over 100 degrees and I was hungry. At first, I didn't even hear the guy or the car. I had my earphones in jamming to Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, and Ozzy. Then I felt somebody behind me, and I spin around to be faced with this super tall man that had a vibe of danger. My first response was to back up, but I curbed it and just smiled at him and asked if I could help him. He asks for my name, and I stupidly gave it. And then he asks me these questions. Do you prefer diamonds, rubies, or sapphires? Do you prefer the couch or a bed? Shoes or no shoes? Favourite colour? Do you have a man? At the time I didn't, but I answered yes. Well, I don't see a ring on your finger. He should be all over you making you his. Then it got even weirder. Can you believe it? Will you go out with me? I can treat you better. I calmly and firmly said no. Well, he wasn't too keen on that. He stared at me coldly for a few seconds. It felt like minutes. Then he smiled, got into his car and looked back at me. I'll be back for you. Every day, until you say yes to me. Usually I would laugh it off and roll my eyes, but this guy was dangerous. An expensive car, nice watch, and expensive clothes in this particular dying town. Drug dealer. I can't be sure, but that's really the only explanation. I quit the next day. I wasn't about to take a chance. From then on, I always carried pepper spray or a knife on me. Now I have a boyfriend who wholeheartedly believes in the Second Amendment. Thank God I haven't seen him since. But the thing is, how do I know he hasn't seen me? Let's definitely not meet again. If we do, it will be entirely too soon.